All right, guys, I think you'll be fired up about this one. We keep this Master Distiller series going on with Oscar Vásquez. And today he's going to talk about cooking. He's going to go in and talk about the methods using a stone oven versus an autoclave versus high pressure versus a diffuser, and talk about a little bit of how those things go into making tequila. It's a pretty cool video. Due to some technical difficulties, though, I did lose the last 12 minutes of this video. We got cut off due to some internet issues, and we just could not get it back on to fix that last 12 minutes. Some of that was just wrapping up saying thanks and goodbye. So I hope you enjoyed the piece that we had. The next one we're going to do is going to be on fermentation, which will be really awesome as well. So stick around and check out this video.
It's tasting tequila with Brad.
All right, I'm excited to be here with the main man, the guy making fantastic tequila, master distiller, Oscar Vásquez. How you doing tonight, Oscar?
Hey, amigo. Pretty good. Thanks so much. Thanks again for having me, for the invitation that you are making. You are making a very, very good videos and information and everything. So thanks so much for letting me be part of that, for sure.
Well, it's people like you and brands like the brands you work with that let me do this and bring this information. So I appreciate you taking your time tonight. So first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to pour a little bit of the chapter 1 of Manuscrito. I got to be drinking something while we're talking.
Okay.
You got some of that? What are you drinking? You got something that you're drinking tonight?
Actually, I'm drinking just water, to be honest.
Okay,
I need to
he's probably been drinking tequila all day today.
Yes, exactly. So I have the greatest opportunity in this life to drink it because it's my job. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. I don't know that I could have your job. My liver would probably be toast if I did that because I drink too much.
Let me tell you this. It's very complicated, but somebody has to do so.
Okay, so tonight what I'd like to talk about is the cooking methods of making tequila and how those different methods affect the taste of tequila. So let's start with, what is your favorite method of cooking?
It's a good question, actually. So talking about some scientific information. As far as you know, as an industry, we have 3 ways in order to cook the agave. Right? Let me try to explain you a little bit that ways, and maybe at the end I can give you my honest opinion about what I do prefer. So in my experience or the industry, we are using brick ovens or stone ovens or concrete ovens, or so ovens like in that way, mostly common as a brick oven. Also, we are using a lot of the autoclaves, right? Those big stainless steel like pots, something like that, in order to cook the agave. It's not so common. Well, it's very common for the massive production or for the big brands. The diffuser, right? Every single one of the methods has his own particularities, has his own good ways or bad ways for say something, because it's not good or bad. This perception is what are you looking for in your tequila, right? In your final profile. So make this sense for you?
Yes, very much so.
So in my personal career, in my personal profession or job, I am familiar with the brick ovens and with the autoclaves. To be honest, I never worked with a diffuser. So the diffuser is the most industrial. When we are using a diffuser in the industry, we can extract as much as possible almost all the sugars from the agave, right? Because we are getting the sugars doing a chemical extraction. So at the end of the day, if we are looking for some numbers, for example, the diffuser is very, very good, right? Because just with an amount of kilos, we can produce some tequila. So since the point of view about the efficiency, it's very, very efficient, right? We can use, 3 kilos, 4 kilos of agave in order to produce 1 liter of tequila. The flavor, the quality is just a word, okay? It's for sure very, very different instead of the tequila that I produce in autoclaves or in ovens. But again, when you are looking for the efficiency, diffuser is a good thing, right? Sadly, the diffuser has not a good reputation in the industry because, at least for me, and this is again my personal personal opinion, the diffuser, it's a very, very good tool when we are looking for some specific alcohol or efficiency, again, right? Because the way that the diffuser is extracting all the sugars from the agave, and for example, if we are selling ethanol or some kind of fuel coming from the alcohols, then the diffuser is a very good option because it's highly efficient. Makes sense this for you, right? It's true, and
Yes.
it is not just for me. So it's not a secret that the tequilas making in a diffuser sometimes. I not say that always, but sometimes that tequilas are not very good to drink, or it's not in the preference of the most of the consumers, right? Because it's kind of easy to get some tequilas in the cheap way, very fast tequilas, just the alcohol, and you know what I am trying to say, right?
Yeah, so that efficiency's not only making more sugars out of the agave, but stripping away some of the flavors that we get by properly cooking the agave, and probably putting a little bit more of those alcohols there that cause people to wake up the next morning going, no, I can't do that ever again, because they're having a lot more of those negative alcohols in there. The diffuser's probably better to just go make agave syrup with it and not really make tequila with it.
Exactly. Yes. So that's a good thing in order to understand a little bit more the industry, right? So at the end of the day, not everything is bad, not everything is good. It's what are you looking for with your own profile, with your own tequila, with your own tasting. Actually, that's the yeah. You are right. When we are cooking or when we are extracting the sugar from the agave for the diffuser method, it's kind of easy to understand that we are just obtaining just one kind of sugar. It's not all the complexity of sugars that we can obtain or we can get from the cooking process, right? So at the end of the day, the fermentation process is really, really different comparing with the autoclaves or with the ovens. And at the end of the day, we are looking for the complexity in the fermentation process in order to get a very complex tequila. That's my opinion.
I think that's a good opinion. I agree with you. So let's roll to a stone oven, a masonry oven, right? When you're cooking in that masonry oven, low and slow, and they don't cook evenly, right? The steam's coming in from usually the bottom, and you're cooking those agaves at the bottom more than those ones at the top, and it all kind of pushes down as it's cooking. What are the different chemicals and alcohols that are being created during that cooking process in a low and slow masonry oven?
Yeah, right now we are talking about the ovens, for example, the good things and the bad things. And again, good or bad is just a word. So it's very common. It's very common when we are producing some tequila using the oven. Yes, you are right. So the people say, no, the agave cooking in an oven is the best because we can get a lot of flavors, more minerality, more sugars, more something, right? In my opinion, yes, it's true. We can get a very complex flavors using an oven, but also we need to understand a little bit how is the way that we are putting the steam inside into the oven and try to understand a little bit how the heat or the steam is trying to cover all the system, all the oven. It's really common that all the industries has just the steam in the bottom, right? If you can understand a little bit or imagine that you are the agave and you are just in front of the steam outside or something like that, so it's kind of probable that agave is cooking a little bit faster than they're around, right? Because the steam is just in front, right? So another thing, if we can analyze, if we can check very precisely the temperatures inside into an oven, we can realize that in some parts, not in all the oven, the heat is not very constant. So I am just saying that, for example, if we are sending steam in 97, 98, or 100 Celsius degrees, yes, the steam has 100 Celsius degrees. Once the steam is outside of the pipes and the steam touch something a little bit colder, then those 100 Celsius degrees right now it's 97, 98, 95. It's enough temperature in order to start to cook all the system for sure. But in my opinion, or at the end of the day, we can realize that, for example, some part of the ovens it's in 94 Celsius degrees. Another one is at 93 Celsius degrees. Another one is at 97 Celsius degrees. So all this combination, for sure, it's trying to give you a different complexity processing the tequila. But when we understand a little bit how we are turning or how we are making the hydrolysis from the sugar, we can get, for example, one compound that we call in furfural. Furfural, I do believe that you say. Sorry.
Mhm.
So
That's right.
the furfural, when you have the opportunity to read a little bit, it's a normal process. So it's a normal alcohol that we are producing into the cooking. It's the same. So it's normal. It's something that normal we are producing because at the very, very end of the day, all the hydrolysis from the sugar is not complete. There is always, there is some sugars that is turning in something like burn. So it's overcooked, that agaves or that sugars. And then the furfural or the furfural, it's when they started to come and to be present. It's normal. So all the industry, all the tequilas has furfural. Actually, is something that we are checking in every analysis that we are sending to the CRT. According by the Mexican lab for the production of the tequila, the maximum is 4.0 milligrams per 100 milliliters, if I can remember. So if we are not reaching that maximum, it's okay. It's safe. It's safe tequila. We can drink it. If we are in that number above or more than 4, then we need to make some blends or something different in order to get down that number. Are you following me? So the oven, for one side,
Yes.
for example, in my opinion, and an oven can give you more minerals, more flavor, more that kind of flavors because makes sense. You are cooking your agave in a stones, right? So it's very probable that at the end of the day you are getting some mineral flavors because you are cooking your agave into the stones. But at the same time, if we consider a little bit this kind of different heats inside into the oven, sometimes it's kind of common that that level of furfural, for example, is a little bit higher comparing, for example, if we are using an autoclave, the stainless steel. The stainless steel, for sure, is not giving to you some mineral because at the end of the day, the stainless steel has not reaction with the sugars or with the agave. We are using the stainless steel or the autoclave just to cook, right? But also, if we understand a little bit how the heat has a distribution in all the system, in all the autoclave, is more consistency. That, for example, 96 or 97 Celsius degrees in all the autoclave, in all the system, right? Because the heat has different distributions. So, in my opinion and in my experience, the levels of furfural in the autoclaves it's very constant than that lower comparing with the brick oven. But at the same time, an autoclave is not giving to you some minerals. So are you following me, right? We have a good
Yes.
balance. We can find a good balance using one system or using another one. For example, the autoclave. Also, if we are looking for the efficiency, the autoclaves, it's something very efficient because we can cook the agave in an autoclave in 6 hours, 8 hours if we need to, right? It just increase the steam, just increase the pressure, and in a 6 hour, 8 hour, the agave is already cooked. In order to make some profiles, right, we are sending a good amount of steam, a good amount of temperature, but in a low pressure. So instead to cook the agave inside an autoclave for 8 hours, we are cooking the agave in autoclave in 20 hours, 21 hours, so like an oven, because we have that ability, or the autoclave, the stainless steel, has that ability in order to play a little bit, not just with the time, also with the pressure, right? In an oven, for example, it's kind of complicated. Cook your agave in a faster time if you are looking so faster or if you are looking some efficiency or something like that, because we need to heat all the stone and we need to heat all the system, right? So you can realize in some point we need to try to understand a really good balance, a really good well balance between the efficiency, the flavors, the agave. So nobody, maybe it's something that nobody, not too much people is thinking, but how is the way that we are getting the steam from the distilleries? We are getting the steam into a boiler, right? So heating water to make some vapor in order to make some steam. So the way that we are using the boilers, it's burning some heavy oils, for example, in order to turn the water into steam, right? Makes sense that, for example, imagine one oven that you are spending, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 days cooking. In 2, 3, 4 days, the boiler is never stopped. It's permanently running, 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 and for sure it's burning some heavy oils, right? In an autoclave, for example, if you are cooking your agave in 6 hours, okay, it's just 6 hours that the boiler it's working. So are you following a little bit?
Yes, 100%. So I have a question on the water that's going into that boiler. That's coming from whatever that distillery's water source is. That's the same water that we use to proof down the tequila, right?
Yeah, it's very common that the source of water in the distillery is using for everything, for the boiler, for the minerality, for the distillation, fermentation, dilution. So yeah, it's very common.
Okay, so I know that some of the minerality that we get in a stone oven is from the stone, of course, but wouldn't some of the minerality that we're getting also come from the minerality of the water that's being used? And therefore, wouldn't you still have some minerality in the autoclave since you're using that same deep well water source or spring-filled water source? Wouldn't that still play into the autoclave like it does a stone oven?
Maybe. let, let, let,
I
let-
say you can say no.
has some point. So everything, all your question, according by my experience or in my opinion, has some point. For example, talking about the minerality in the water. As we know, the water has his own minerality, right? There is some soft water, there is some hot waters, so different kind of water. For sure, the water is very, very important for the process in all the industries, in all the distilleries. So let me try to change a little bit your question. What happened when a distillery is just sending the water into the boiler, right? So the water into the inside into the boiler, it's making some steam. So in some way, all the minerals, all the nutrients, all the things that we have in the water, we are making a concentration because we are making an evaporation, right? So actually, it's really common to understand how, for example, the incrustations into the pipes and everything, it's present. Why? Because the water has mineral. Even in your house, you can see a old pipe with incrustation of minerals. So in this way, some distilleries they are using some chemical products in order to make soft water, right? Or making some treatment to the water before to the send into the boiler or before to send to the fermentation, because sometimes that minerality can play in our favor or in the opposite side when we are making different things. So you see how complex is your question actually, right? What we are looking for. So what is the way
Yeah.
that we are taking the decision into the distillery? In my experience, for example, here in Arandas in this area, we have a really, really gentle water, a really good water. So it's heavy a little bit, but it's not so has a very, very good amount of mineralities in order to don't use, for example, some softeners or in order to use some chemical products in order to make that water more soft, in order to get a good vapor, good steam, or good fermentations or good distillations. You know what I mean? So your question at the end of the day is really, really deep.
So, okay, so let's talk about one of the things I've noticed when I'm there. So, I've eaten cooked agave from a stone oven. I've eaten cooked agave from a low pressure autoclave. I haven't had high pressure autoclave while I was there. But every time I have agave from a low pressure autoclave, it is juicier and sweeter than the agave I've tasted from a stone oven. Is that because the pressure lets that water kind of stay in that agave more, where it's escaping more in the stone oven?
Yes, actually. So, for example, it's you see how you almost you say the answer. By the way, when we are using an autoclave, everything is sealed, everything is closed, right? That's the ability in order to, that's the good way in order to use, for example, high pressures because the steam is not running. The steam is not escapando. The steam is not running
Escaping.
outside. Yes, exactly.
Right.
So when you are sending the steam and that steam touch the agave, and now that steam is not anymore steam, now it's hot water, for say something, we start to irritate a little bit more the agave inside into the autoclaves because the liquid has not way in order to go outside or in order to disappear or something like that. It's very common that some ovens the ovens has some liquids or has some it's leaking, you can say. So when you're cooking your agave into the oven, that oven you can realize that is in the ground, right? It's uh, it's just in the flat area in the ground. So for sometimes that sugar or that water, that juice, try to go or liquid or leaking from some parts of the same oven, right? And sometimes you are losing in some way a little bit of that juice because the oven is not closed, is not sealed as an stainless steel. Are you following me a little bit?
Yeah, like when you go to 1414 and you're standing outside of the brick ovens and the doors are shut, but the steam is shooting out the sides of those doors and it smells so awesome. But you can see some of that liquid, kind of seeping out of the sides of those doors or around the bricks. So you're losing potentially a little bit of that moisture, where in the autoclave, it can't go anywhere. It's in there and it's staying in those agaves, maybe making them a little bit juicier, if you will, than the ones that maybe are coming out of the stone oven. And maybe more of those around the outside or closer to the steam where they get a little hotter are going to be a little drier, and lose some of that juiciness, is what you're saying.
Exactly, right? Because so you have the for it's good for me that you are present very often into a distilleries and watching different process. And yes, when you are in front of the oven, even you can see how the steam or the juices are liquid or are going a little bit because it's not an a closed system, right? It's kind of impossible or it's very very complicated try to seal in order to avoid that something is releasing or escaping or just going just disappearing, right? In an autoclave, like it's in a closed system, it's very easy or say something in order to handle that loses or that steam or that liquids, right? So for example, let me share this with you. For most of the bottles that you have just in front of you, I am using ovens, right? Yes, all that tequila, that profiles, the cooking process is into the oven. Behind of you, I can see the bottles of tequila corrido. So tequila corrido, it's cooking in an autoclave in a low pressure, right? So it's now I am answering your question, what I do prefer. To be honest, for me, has a very good advantage or disadvantage or not good things, both systems. I don't have a favorite, to be honest. Not in the cooking,
Yeah.
not for cooked agave.
Okay, so here's a question, and this kind of short answers of what you think comes out of each one. So we have different flavor profiles. So when we're tasting through tequila, sometimes I can tell the difference if it's a roller mill or if it's a Tahona. Sometimes I can tell in my flavors that I feel like it's more autoclave versus stone oven. So what are most of the flavors that are imparted in a tequila done low and slow in a stone oven? What are your most the profile flavors that you're most likely to pick up? Stone oven, low and slow.
Well, this is my answer. How is the way that we are cooking that agave, right? How is the process? Why? because according by the books, we need some temperature in order to make the hydrolysis. Which is the hydrolysis? In order to turn that complex sugars in fermentable sugars. It doesn't matter if it is in an oven or in an autoclave. We need some minimums. But when we are making the hydrolysis, we have a complex sugar. This complex sugar is inulin, right? Inulina. So the inulina or the inulin is the most complex sugar that we can find into the agave, at least in the blue agave waiver. So due to hydrolysis, we are cutting that complex sugar in simple sugars, which is mostly fructose and glucose. So when we are sending the glucose and the fructose into the fermentation process, the yeast is turning in a different kind of alcohols the sugars coming from the fructose on the or the sugars coming from the glucose, right? So this ability is the thing that we are using in order to get very complex tequilas, because also when we are making the hydrolysis in the brick or in the stainless steel, we are not making an 100% hydrolysis. All the times, always, some amount of that sugars has not turned into simple sugars. You know what I mean? And anyway, the yeast try to eat that sugar and make another compounds in another processes. So my final answer, it's depending a lot the way that you are cooking your agave, right? Because it's kind of complicated, at least to me, giving a precisely answer, because it's complicated. So we need to have a lot of imagination in order to try to understand how is the way or how is the path that we are following, making different flavors, right? Are you following me, or or not?
Yeah. Yeah, I follow you. I mean, what I gather from that, which makes a lot of sense to me, is there's not a single piece of that profile that comes directly from cooking. It comes from the whole process. So if you're going to make a tequila that is maybe more floral and more citrus, is going to be a combination of how you cooked it, probably how you shaved the pinca on the agave,
Yeah,
and then how you fermented it, pine or stainless, length of time, type of yeast, and then also the process of distilling is going to be more of how each one of those pieces create a profile that's maybe more floral, or a profile that's more vegetal, or a profile that's brighter and cleaner. So it's what you're saying is not just the cooking, it's a combination of all of those pieces.
exactly. Produced tequila, at least in my opinion, is a combination of all the steps, right? Since the agave, yes, for sure. Since the maturity of the agave, since the harvesting, since the way that we are cooking. So it's you have a very good answer, by the way, because it's the combination of everything. So I always try to share with the people, produce tequila is 100%, right? Make the count, make the math. Water, I am not counting the water, because the water, it's very important, it's very necessary in all the process, right? So for me, the water, I don't mention the water because the water is the same important as the production by itself. You know what I mean? Okay, if we can skip the
Absolutely,
water,
yeah.
if we have good water, we have a good possibilities in order to get a good number.
All right. Sorry we lost that last 12 minutes. I know he gave us a lot of information in there, and I hope that's really helpful and you learn more about the tequila manufacturing process. Our next show will be about fermentation, and he'll go into all of the different facets of making different flavors in tequila based on how you ferment. So thanks for watching these shows. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any ideas or things that you would like to have Oscar cover, any questions, please put them in the comments. Thanks. Have a great night.